And that was the response? When there's that kind of attack on your character and your integrity? That's the response? Let me walk Stephen A. Smith through a story here.
When your league's biggest stars are demanding the commissioner resign, and Jason Whitlock says the WNBA is collapsing under its own feminism, oh yeah, this one's gonna ruffle some feathers. What's good? The Gray Wave fam. We mix the black and the white, the left and the right, the logic and the faith, and come out with the Gray Way. Smash that like button so this one gets seen before they try to hide it. Subscribe if you're ready for the truth about what's really going down in the WNBA. Here's Jason Whitlock, and this time he's not just talking sports, he's talking culture. Watch this, then we'll break it down.
But you guys are aware, Napheesa Collier, the Minnesota Lynx star, and hard to call anybody the WNBA star, but she went on a tirade criticizing Cathy Engelbert, the commissioner of the WNBA. I told you all yesterday, hey, look, Cathy Engelbert's incompetent. So is Adam Silver. The people running the NBA and the WNBA, they're incompetent. There's no question. They're put there for their incompetence. They're easy to push over and bully. I'm not defending Cathy Engelbert, but I think what Napheesa Collier did was stupid, immature, shouldn't be celebrated. She went full-blown, black queen, be quiet, a black woman's talking, and I've been mistreated, and I got injured, and the commissioner didn't even reach out and talk to me, and it's about personal relationships, and I know how to run a league because I started Unrivaled, and these venture capitalists have given me millions of dollars to blow on a 3-on-3 Gus Macker basketball league, and so I know more than Cathy Engelbert, and everybody's just going, oh, black queen, go off, queen, Wakanda forever. And it's retarded. It's bad business. And of course, an idiot like Stephen A. Smith hears that and says, oh, black queen, how can I worship you? Because that's all we do. We worship women and pretend like anything they do because, I've been scolded in my prayer group very politely for using the word moist. I'm trying to use the word moist less often, but it's a word that I don't think is profane, that I think conveys my thoughts and the reality of what's gone on here in America and globally is men are so weak for the moistness of women that we throw out all common sense and all reality and just champion anything they do and say, and we pretend like they can do no wrong because we're so weak and have so little discipline because of our obsession with moistness. And so here's Stephen A. Smith calling for Cathy Engelbert to resign because this black queen who runs a 3-on-3 Gus Macker basketball league that loses millions of dollars and no one watches and no one wants to see women play 3-on-3 basketball. Hardly anyone wants to see them play 5-on-5 basketball. But because she's a black woman and because Stephen A. Smith can score points with other black women by championing Napheesa Collier, this is what he does. Let's play shot number 10.
When a player, any player, but especially one of that magnitude, attacks you publicly like that, that weak-ass statement Commissioner Engelbert gave is not good enough. And I'm going to say it. It was a weak-ass statement. Could you imagine somebody directing comments and criticisms at you, taking conversations they've had with you directly and telling the world what you said? And did you see that statement Commissioner Engelbert gave? She basically provided no defense of herself. That was an attack against your leadership. It was an attack against your integrity. It was an attack against your character. Against your character. And that's the statement you came out with. Listen, I've reached out to Cathy Engelbert's office. I said, you are welcome to come on my show today. Explain, because I want to know how the hell somebody said something like that about you as the commissioner. Doggy, come on, man. Could you imagine a commissioner being called out like that directly? And that timid, tepid statement, oh, she looks guilty as hell. And then I'm looking at it and I'm saying, did you really say that? Mm-hmm. Did you really say that Caitlin Clark should think of Heavenly Stars, that she wouldn't be worth anything if she wasn't playing in the WNBA? Did you really say? See, all of these things that Napheesa Collier brought up, I'm sitting back going like this. Girl, you got my ears perked. I'm listening, because she got very, very specific. And for her to come, the commissioner to come back with that, you can't have her at the negotiating table talking to players. Basically, Napheesa Collier says she's in the way of our growth and our development as a league, not just on the player side, but on the league side. She's not good for basketball. At the end of the day, you have a star player in the league saying the commissioner, this individual, is in the way of all of us. And that was her statement. I believe she should hand in her resignation.
Let me count the many idiocies expressed in that. And that was the response? When there's that kind of attack on your character and your integrity? That's the response? Let me walk Stephen A. Smith through a story here. There's a prominent, well-respected, super accomplished sports journalist who read a book by a very popular sports writer, sports media personality, read his memoir and walked in significant detail through all the fabrications in Stephen A. Smith's memoir. There was an attack on Stephen A. Smith's credibility, integrity, honesty, reputation. And Stephen A. Smith's response was 40 minutes of cussing and calling me fat bastard. There was a serious attack and questioning of Stephen A. Smith's narrative that he provided about himself. I didn't offer up a bunch of opinions about Stephen A. Smith. I walked you through the farcical lies that he told about himself. And his response was, everybody hates that fat bastard. Now, you want to talk about somebody who should have resigned? When they've been out here, man, I hit 17 straight three-pointers, and Big House Gaines gave me a scholarship on the spot. I was in New York in February, temperature's about 20 degrees outside, maybe it's 10 below, and a former Winston-Salem State basketball player took me to an outdoor park in February in New York and put me through a basketball tryout. And I did so well in that basketball tryout that the next weekend, that player picked me up in a car and drove me to Winston-Salem, North Carolina for a basketball tryout on a Sunday for a college basketball team that was still in season and played a game on that Saturday, but they had a practice on that Sunday, and I showed up late, walked onto the court, and knocked down 17 straight threes and got a scholarship on the spot. Someone told that farcical story, and it was called out. Someone called out, I got a 6-inch screw in my knee, and it's still here to this day. I snapped my knee in half. And that's your response? Jason Whitlock is a fat bastard? That's your response? You got a 6-inch screw in your knee. And we talked to doctors that claimed that, you had a knee-gina surgery. You had a vagina installed in your knee so that they can put a 6-inch screw in your knee. Do you understand how farcical this is? You're living a lie. Everything about you is a lie. You run around with this 5'10" Gary Stevens, who was 6'3" allegedly when he was in college, but he actually went to college in New York, but he claims to be your teammate from Winston-Salem State. Y'all fly around together on private jets and go meet Dion and all this other stuff. And this is my former college basketball teammate, this midget who played basketball at some Division IV school in New York, met his wife there. But y'all running around on this facade. The dude to the left of Stephen A, to the right of the screen. Stephen A. Smith is a shade over 6'1", or he's like 6'1". This guy is allegedly 6'3". He's about 5'9", 5'10". That's Stephen A. Smith's best friend from college, former college basketball teammate. This has all been called out. This isn't name calling. And that's your response? And you want Cathy Engelbert to resign because Napheesa Collier, I want to refresh you all's memory with some of what Napheesa Collier had to say about Cathy Engelbert, and I'll clean up some of this. Play the clip.
So first of all, I'd like to congratulate the Mercury for advancing to the finals. And I want to be clear, this conversation is not about winning or losing. It's about something much bigger. The real threat to our league isn't money. It isn't ratings or even missed calls or even physical play. It's the lack of accountability from the league office. Since I've been in the league, you've heard the constant concerns about officiating, and it has now reached levels of inconsistency that plague our sport and undermine the integrity in which it operates. Whether the league cares about the health of the players is one thing, but to also not care about the product we put on the floor is truly self-sabotage. Year after year, the only thing that remains consistent is the lack of accountability from our leaders. Sorry, I had to walk here in my boot. I'm kind of out of breath. The league has a buzzword that they've rolled out as talking points for the CBA as to why they can't pay the players what we're worth. That word is sustainability. But what's truly unsustainable is keeping a good product on the floor while allowing officials to lose control of games. Fans see it every night. Coaches, both winning and losing, point it out every night in pregame and postgame media. Yet leadership just issues fines and looks the other way. They ignore the issues that everyone inside the game is begging to be fixed. That is negligence. At Unrivaled this past February, I sat across from Cathy and asked how she planned to address the officiating issues in our league. Her response was, well, only the losers complain about the refs. I also asked how she planned to fix the fact that players like Caitlin, Angel, and Paige, who are clearly driving massive revenue for the league, are making so little for their first 4 years. Her response was, Caitlin should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court, because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything. And in that same conversation, she told me players should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the media rights deal that I got them. That's a mentality driving our league from the top.
And so when you're a simp, when you despite all the gang members that looked out for Stephen A. Smith and said, no, Stephen A. is not to be touched. And despite Stephen A.'s little shtick that he's some street guy, this man has no street sense. He has no idea when a woman is exaggerating and lying and misrepresenting. Here, I have no interest in defending Cathy Engelbert. She's an idiot. Napheesa Collier, not any smarter than Cathy Engelbert. Perhaps a bit more devious or just as devious, because anybody with a brain knows here's how that conversation likely went with Cathy Engelbert. And any journalist should know. You just don't take note. Hey, a woman gets up or any source gets up and just says, hey, this is what happens. A journalist goes, really? That don't make sense. What Cathy Engelbert probably said was, hey, yes, I get that Caitlin Clark has brought a lot of attention to the WNBA. I get it. But Caitlin and the rest of you have to realize that this welfare platform that the NBA has put together for us, the WNBA, is the reason why she can make $16 million. Because she had a professional league that we've been working hard to maintain and have, so that she has a platform to command $16 million. So you can do both. You can recognize that, hey, Caitlin Clark brought a ton of value to the WNBA, but you can also argue that, hey, the WNBA, I know it's a failing league, I know we have it, but it is a platform that justifies her $16 million. And when you're in a negotiation, that's how conversations go. But when you're a simp with no street smarts, when you're a installed plant just to stir division and emotion, you can't read between the lines and figure out what's really going on. That these are two women in a catfight in a league that's been propped up and supported by men for 30 years, and they're doing a controlled demolition of the WNBA. The WNBA, as I told you all yesterday, it's building 7. It's going to collapse under the weight of its own incompetence and own feminism and own delusion. And running around and pretending like Napheesa Collier and that 3-on-3 Gus Macker league that no one cares about, no one will ever watch. I don't care how much money gets given away. And yes, people are giving away money to unrivaled players because that's what we've done with women's basketball and women's sports for decades. We just throw money at it. And we let them lose money out of guilt, out of male guilt that we need to let go of. We don't owe these angry women a damn thing. And that's not anger at them. That's just like, hey man, we live about 9 years less than women because we take all the risk. We do all the hard stuff. And that's not calling raising kids, nurturing kids in the womb, having babies. That's not easy. Not remotely. It's very difficult. I wish more women took pride in it, and I hate the word pride, but took satisfaction and understood how important that was. But playing basketball, hey, Stephen A. Smith, I'm not going to play the, yeah, I am. Josh, give me 2 more minutes. I'm going to play this clip of Gino Auriemma talking about how trash the WNBA is, and then we'll leave it at that. Play the clip.
And I've had a lot of NBA people, and a lot of former WNBA players tell me that what goes on in the WNBA game is way more physical than what happens in an NBA game. Now, you know, you go to NBA games in the playoffs. Well, that's maybe a different story, but you know, I think on a daily basis, I think the WNBA game is not conducive to like great basketball. Okay, I mean, you can spin it any way you want. Well, there's more viewers, there's more that. That's great. That doesn't mean it's a better game just because more people are watching, supposedly. Right? You watched last year's final game between the Liberty and the Lynx. It was a horrendous game. But any way you want to spin it, it was a horrendous game. Two of the 2 best teams in the league. And what score was 20-20 at halftime or some crazy, people can't get open.
Let's stop there because I want to get to Josh, and he's made my point. Because I told you all, remember last year I tortured myself and watched the WNBA finals and watched their game 7. It was one of the worst displays of basketball I've ever seen. And it was like no one should have been crowned champion. And then the referees came in and stole it and handed the game to the Liberty. Gino Auriemma is speaking out loud what is evident to everybody. This league is trash. They had a glimmer of hope with Caitlin Clark. They're blowing it. They've blown it. These women are unlikable. The simps like Stephen A. Smith can simp for Napheesa Collier because she's a black woman and a feminist, and he's a simp and a coward and has no street smarts, has no masculinity in him. I'm not going to do it. WNBA's trash. These two feminists and the rest of the feminists that follow them are going to destroy this league, and I'm going to enjoy it. My little brief glimmer of hope that Caitlin Clark would lead to some renaissance or phenomenon going in the WNBA, they've blown it up. I've paid attention, and they have destroyed the league. They're destroying Caitlin Clark. They're going to turn her out, just as Stephanie White was turned out. I'm sorry for being this crystal clear with you all, but I've seen this movie before. Stephanie White's from Indiana. She set her little town on its ear in Lebanon with her basketball. She took Purdue to the national championship, made a basketball program out of Purdue, went to the WNBA, married her high school sweetheart, went to the WNBA, got turned out, and now she lives with Lisa Salters. They're going to do it to Caitlin Clark. And I don't want to watch it.
So let's get it straight. Napheesa Collier calls out WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, says she doesn't care about players, and somehow Stephen A. Smith turns it into fire the commissioner. Now, what Jason Whitlock said, and I agree, is this whole thing exposes exactly why the WNBA stays losing. Not because people hate women, but because leadership and entitlement have replaced accountability and product. Look, on this channel, we don't do gender politics. We do truth, and the truth is you can't run a league off emotion and Twitter hashtags. When Gino Auriemma, a college women's basketball coach legend, says the WNBA product is trash, that ain't hate, that's honesty. Jason's point was bigger than basketball. He's saying when you build anything on affirmation instead of excellence, it collapses. That's why he called the WNBA Building 7, ready to implode under its own feminism and delusion. Cold but accurate. And let's be real, Caitlin Clark breathed life into the league. Millions watching, merch selling, headlines every week. And instead of protecting that momentum, the league let the culture war take center stage. Now they're eating each other alive. You don't fix that by firing Cathy Engelbert. You fix it by building a product worth respecting, men and women both. And until players stop acting like victims and start hooping like professionals, this league will stay exactly where it is, a charity for the NBA with a shot clock. That's the hard truth, and I know the Gray Wave fan can handle that. So what do you think? Should the WNBA hold Cathy accountable or hold their own players to a higher standard? Drop your take below. I want to see how divided this gets. And before you go, smash that like, subscribe, share this with someone who actually watches basketball, and you already know this is the Gray Way. Stay alert, stay grounded, and never stop giving a damn.